Today we're talking about Big Nasty himself, Ronnie Coleman. This man is inarguably more influential than any bodybuilder since Arnold Schwarzenegger. His catchphrases are iconic. People still watch his training videos. And to this day, just about nobody looks like the racehorse that was skinned, oiled up, and made to stand on stage, smile, and wave at everybody. That is Ronnie Coleman. So we're going to go over his life story. I'm going to tell you about the man, where he came from, how he trained, and we're going to get to the bottom of the question, why the f does everybody love Ronnie Coleman? As always, guys, hit the link below, barbellapparel.com, get some Bromley merch. And oh, what do we have here? Base strength. Oh, there is just so much information in here. All of my thoughts condensed down into a nice little manual. It's not 500 pages of nonsense, but it's also not a 19-page ebook that I'm charging you $50 for. Check this bad boy out at BaseStrength.com. Back to the show. Now, Ronnie's story begins far away from the bright lights of the Olympia stage. He was born in Monroe, Louisiana in 1964. He graduated cum laude from Grambling State University with a major in accounting. And while there, he also played football. Many people know that he powerlifted before he was a bodybuilder, but few people know he was actually a football player, and apparently a pretty damn good one. Ronnie Coleman was a walk-on to his college team, and on one particular game, he recorded 14 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception. However, he suffered a neck injury during that game that derailed his NFL aspirations. According to Ronnie, if that neck injury didn't happen, we would be talking about Ronnie Coleman, the football player, not Ronnie Coleman, the bodybuilder. And given what we know now about the man's propensity for size, strength, power, I don't doubt it for a second. Now, having a degree in accounting, it stands to reason that the man would then go to work as an accountant, but Ronnie had a hard time getting a job. So much so that it led him to take a job at Domino's. Now, you think it's hard to get a job when you majored in like indigenous women's menstrual cycles? This guy actually went to get a degree that translates directly to a specific trade, and then was faced with the job market being absolutely punishing, so much so that he had to go flip pizzas. Now, as somebody who worked at Domino's Pizza, I know what that grind is like. I know what the pepperoni slime feels like on your fingertips. I know what it's like to try to pick cornmeal out of your nails. And during this time, according to Ronnie, he was so poor that he could barely afford to eat outside of work. Now, this does something to a man. When you're flipping pizzas, knowing that you got the chops, you got the education, you're in debt because you banked on having this profession, but you're not above it, you're gonna make ends meet, you're gonna go in the back, get your hands covered in flour and start slapping dough. There is a rare type of person that will commit to doing something like that, even though it's so obviously beneath them. And this is a testament to how humble the man is, and is probably a big feature of his character that allowed him to do what he did in the first place. Now, in 1989, Ronnie Coleman got a break when he joined the Arlington Police Department. Now, surely you've seen the iconic pictures of Ronnie Coleman stuffed into a police uniform that looks 3 sizes too small. I mean, it doesn't even look real. He looks like a male stripper, or like they were doing 2 for 1 at Spirit Halloween store. So he took the bodybuilder muscle suit and the cheap police costume. Now, Coleman reportedly referred to being a police officer as his dream job, and he claimed that he would have done it for free. To him, bodybuilding was a hobby, but being a cop, that's what he did. Now, it was on that job that fellow police officer Gustavo Arlada would tell him to go to Metroflex Gym to check it out because, brother, you got potential. And it is at that Metroflex Gym in Arlington, Texas, that Ronnie Coleman would meet amateur bodybuilder Brian Dobson. Now, recognizing his potential, Brian Dobson told Coleman that he would give him a lifetime membership to his gym if he simply allowed Dobson to train him for an upcoming bodybuilding contest. It was in that training for Mr. Texas that Ronnie Coleman not only won first place in both the heavyweight and the overall categories, but beat Dobson himself. Now, in today's age of social media, we normally think of people who are at the upper echelon of strength or barbell sports as being full-time at what they do. Social media has allowed strongmen and powerlifters and bodybuilders, even if they're not literally the best in the world, to fashion a living. But things weren't quite the same in the pre-Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube universe. See, back in the day, bodybuilding was an obscurity and you would have to maintain a day job, or you would have to otherwise get your housing, drug use, and protein intake funded by sponsors through some dubious transactions. I mean, in that era of technology, you couldn't even take the Kai Green route and get a grapefruit and a camcorder and do it on your own. So through 1989 to 2000, Ronnie Coleman had to work this balancing act. He had to work full-time as a police officer and still get in his marathon training sessions. He had to beat his body into the ground the way that only Ronnie Coleman does. Heavy ass barbell lifts with insane amounts of weight for sets on sets, sometimes going 40 working sets in a workout, 2 hours plus, living on nothing but chicken and rice and maybe some barbecue sauce, probably some cornbread, stuffing. It was Ronnie. He got away with some shit. But to get those meals in while working as a cop, that's no easy feat, and that's something that he had to balance. Now, his success in the sport was not as meteoric as his early placing might lead you to believe. In Ronnie's first Mr. Olympia contest in 1992 in Helsinki, Finland, he placed dead last. And the story goes that he was just happy to be there. 2 years later at the 1994 Mr. Olympia, he placed 15th. Now consider the pro athletes, the divas that exist in strength sports and in bodybuilding, and consider icons like Mike Mentzer, who took his ball and went home after a cumulative 5 years of being a pro in his late 20s because he didn't win the Olympia that he thought he deserved to win. Ronnie Coleman's Olympia placings went 16th, 15th, 11th, 6th, and then back to 9th. It wasn't until Dorian Yates retired and Ronnie made the necessary improvements to his physique that in 1998 he would win his first Mr. Olympia on his 6th try. Now, as he won and then kept winning, he got 8 Olympia wins in a row. He reached a level of fame that bodybuilding hadn't seen in some time, to the point where on patrol, people would say, "Holy shit, are you Ronnie Coleman?" Well, this created a little bit of a problem. He was a distraction, but it's also a little difficult to get criminals to take you seriously when they're glazing you because they saw you squatting 800 pounds on the centerfold from Flex magazine. So the story goes that this created enough of a problem that they moved him over from doing beat work, where he would pull people over and write tickets, to actually just having him behind a desk doing paperwork and answering calls. Now, a theme here is going to be Ronnie's humility and his work ethic. It shows in his ball-busting workouts that are anything but, let's maximize recovery, folks. Let's keep those fatigue demons at bay. Ronnie loved himself some fatigue. And he loved being a cop. As he says himself, "I didn't quit being a cop because of bodybuilding. I just physically couldn't do both anymore." Now, after Ronnie's Olympia wins, his chief offered to pay him not to work, and that's an offer that Ronnie actually refused. His claim to his chief was, "If I don't work, I don't get paid." Now, between 1998 and 2005, Ronnie would absolutely dominate the Olympia stage, and in that time would take down 26 IFBB professional titles. What stands out to anybody who listens to Ronnie talk is you have a man he's big as shit. I mean, Brick Shithouse doesn't describe it. He looks like 10 pounds of sausage in a 1-pound casing. He's just pouring meat out the sides. And when I think of Ronnie Coleman, I think of snacks. I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but if you've ever studied how snacks work, the ones that stay in your head, the ones that you crave, the ones that keep you coming back for more, that you just can't stop, they hit as many different senses as possible. Touch, taste, sound. They have a crunch. You have different flavors. If it's salty and it's sweet, if it's shaped a weird way, if it has colors. Every single addictive snack you can think of hits those marks, and it's not by accident. They're engineered to be that way. Ronnie Coleman hits so many different marks because he's ridiculously big and lean like nobody ever has been before. But he also trains like an absolute maniac. Now, where Dorian's blood and guts training emphasized absolute failure on every set, Ronnie applied that, but to things that were more relatable. He was doing free weight barbell movements. It wasn't just like a muscular development centerfold where you got a bunch of fake plates and they spray them down with water to make it look like they're sweating. I mean, those were his actual workouts. It was literally 600 pounds for double-digit reps on squat. It was literally 500 pounds for 8 reps on bench press. That was a normal workout for him. It was using the 200s for working sets unassisted on dumbbell presses. So because he didn't use the machines, because he used the dungeon atmosphere and milked it for everything it's worth, you now have an image to go along with his physique. And as if that's not enough to draw you in, then the man opens his mouth and speaks, and you have who is arguably the Mike Tyson of bodybuilding, one of the scariest imposing figures, who has that kind of noticeable high-pitched voice. It doesn't quite go with his body. It's a little bit cartoonish. And then he goes into his battle cries, which he says with complete seriousness.
Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to lift no heavy-ass weight. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder. Don't nobody want to bench press. Time to bleed. Got that right. Yeah. Lightweight, baby. Woo.
These are the things that you start saying because they sound funny, and then they become part of your normal lexicon. It's like when I first saw Step Brothers, we started saying bro. We started calling each other bro ironically because it was funny. And then we just called each other bro. It's just what we did.
Because I want to make bank, bro.
You got people successfully selling merch that plays on Ronnie Coleman's phrasings. You have motivational videos with just endless millions of views that are nothing more than Ronnie Coleman going into the gym on a Wednesday and doing what he does. Everybody wants to play ball, but nobody wants to walk on on the field. Everybody wants a degree, but nobody wants to go to school. Everybody wants a job, but nobody's putting in applications. Everybody wants a check, but nobody's willing to work at Domino's. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but don't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. His workouts were so intense that he was reported as having made bodybuilders half his age puke in the first 20 minutes, and he trained by himself because nobody could keep up. Now, at this point, much has been made about Ronnie Coleman's back issues. In fact, low information consumers love to put in the comments under lifting videos that Ronnie Coleman's proof of what's going to happen to you. Now, Ronnie Coleman's back injuries are as horrible as they look. The man claims he's in 9 or 10 out of 10 pain almost all the time. He has to stay on painkillers, and he's had countless surgeries. You can trace the earliest signs of his future back injuries to the neck injury he suffered in football, to back injuries he suffered while squatting 600 pounds for reps. Since 2007, Ronnie Coleman's undergone over a dozen surgeries, including double hip replacements. Now, people blame it on different things. Some people say that he didn't seek medical attention immediately, and that when he did get surgeries, he ignored advice to take it easy and just went back and train. I'm getting CT Fletcher vibes. Remember when CT Fletcher had what did he have, a heart transplant? And he was up in the parking lot doing sprints like a week later, and he passed out and face planted. There's something to be said for the type of crazy that leads you to do that stupid shit. And it's a question well, is this really what you need to be the best of the best? I'm going to go ahead and say no. I don't care if you're a NASCAR driver. If a mechanic opens up your car and says, hey, don't drive this for the next 7 days, and you're out there doing fucking donuts 2 days later, brother, you got a problem. Now, apparently there was also a problem with screws breaking. Now, this is also something I have a little bit of experience with because I have a plate and 12 screws in my leg as we speak from a base jumping accident. Okay, I was fucking roller skating. I was drunk. A buddy pushed me and I twisted my whittle ankle in the roller skates. It wasn't even roller blades. It was literally the 4 skates like a cocktail waitress from the 1970s. Now, because the webbing that keeps the tibia and fibula together split, they were at risk of going down the side of my foot if I didn't let it heal. That took an extra 6 weeks. It was 12 weeks of no weight bearing. And the screws that they put in my foot to try to keep everything in place, they left in. And they told me we used to take them out, but now we just leave them in. Eventually they break, but they break with more use over time as your shit heals. And I remember specifically what I was doing when they broke. Now, Ronnie didn't have one screw break one time. He was routinely having screws break. And the only logical conclusion you could come to is that after going through back surgery, he was in lifting weights that he shouldn't have been lifting with his back in such a vulnerable position, which meant they had to cut him open over and over and over in order to refasten the screws. So it's up in the air what actually caused it. Ronnie said if I had a better surgeon, I wouldn't be in a wheelchair. I tend to think if he just did what he was supposed to do, he probably wouldn't be in a wheelchair. And I do kind of hate that his state that he's in right now is serving as a cautionary tale for other people not to lift weights. But as it stands right now, even in his current state, he is still beloved by fans everywhere. He still goes to conventions. He still runs a YouTube channel where his reactions clock in millions of views. And the iconic images of one of the biggest human beings to ever step on stage are still burned into the brains of the people that were fortunate enough to be lifting weights at the time of the king, Ronnie Coleman's reign. So that, my friends, is a story of Ronald Dean Coleman. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.